Speaking of being in the house, we'll bring him in now. I know you folks love listening, getting some recruiting updates and some LSU updates as spring football is right around the corner. Let's go to the Jim's Firearms Hotline and bring in our resident, Shea Dixon. At Shea Dixon, go 247. Shea, what's up, man?
Oh, not a whole lot. I'm enjoying this dead period for football recruiting, which ran from, I guess, right before signing day till the end of the month. So a nice break for college coaches and for people like me who have to cover it.
You have no breaks. You know that. Everything is you got to sit there and follow all these on on Instagram and Twitter. You got to follow all these guys because they put out all this cryptic stuff, and you got to try to talk to them and figure out what they're doing. LSU is the latest to offer. Well, the latest offer at LSU looks like they put out there is a local guy, and somebody asked me about him, Struma High running back Le'Veon Moss. Talk about him.
Yeah, I mean, this was a big deal considering it's a Struma kid getting an LSU football offer. And look, you think about it, Struma I don't think had played varsity football since probably back in 2013. They had merged with Capital at one point and then started things back up. And I know that this was the first year that they had a varsity team. And Moss was a big key to it. I mean, we're talking about a kid, 5'11", 185 pounds, as a sophomore in high school, Baton Rouge native. And in January, when he released his sophomore film, that's when college coaches really said, oh, watch out. Struma's not only got a team again, but they've got a player. And Memphis, I think, was his first offer. Mississippi State came right behind them on the same day. And then you fast forward to shortly after signing day. I know the LSU staff sat down and watched film for 2021 and 2022 classes. And when they got to the Baton Rouge area and got to Moss, it was watch the film, dial up the coach, and get him an offer. So offer number 3 for Moss is a big one coming from LSU.
I got a question that came in the huddle brought to you, the Buy It Forward huddle. Was a question about who's the biggest name still out there that you would expect to be added to this class still. I know that's kind of tricky. I know that's kind of tricky because you got a couple of guys that are trying to get grades.
Right. I think Cameron Jackson's one to really watch because his grades, if he can get in order for the end of the semester, then he would be a signee, and Coach O has talked about that. So that's one guy who's been on the commitment list for a while, playing defensive line. He can play offensive tackle. That's still in play for him. But you've got 3 open spots, and what I'm watching hard is the transfer portal. And more guys go in each day as spring ball begins and guys see kind of where they're at or get a feel for coaching changes, all that sort of stuff. Maybe just wanting to go play at a bigger stage, which is what we've seen from some LSU transfers in the past, that there'll be guys there for the taking. And I'd say that it's not out of the realm of possibility that we see him take 2 guys out of the transfer portal. And I'm looking at whether it's linebackers, whether it's interior offensive linemen, which they're going to have to replace both starters or all 3 starters in the interior offensive line from a year ago. I think that best available is obviously a route you can take. And then you look at, do you take a quarterback? Do you take another receiver or something at a position where maybe he can impact for you as early as this year? Safety is another one. So I think that Orgeron will look pretty hard at nearly every position because nothing's out of sort of the picture for him or the conversation when they found success in the transfer portal with guys like Joe Burrow and Cole Tracy. I mean, those were absolute difference makers for both those seasons, and I think you want to continue to try to find out if you can do that again.
There's going to be Shea Dixon, go 247, at Shea Dixon on Twitter. Make sure you give him a follow. Shea, Kaleb Williams, had a question about that. Obviously, he changed his profile pic on whatever you want to call it, the picture on Twitter. He changed it into an LSU uniform wearing number 9. Can we read anything into that? He's a 2021 quarterback.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, this is just, as you said, you got to keep up with the kids and all their twists and turns and who they're showing love to each week publicly. But I think behind closed doors, LSU's in it. I think Georgia was once really considered a favorite. That's cooled off. Certainly, they've taken another quarterback as well. So I think he's looking elsewhere. Penn State's been involved, but OU and LSU seem to be 2 teams that are getting tossed around a good bit right now. And he hasn't settled on the decision date. It could be any time, but then again, I think he's going to take some visits in the spring and go from there. Try to be as detail-oriented with his research as he can. Him and his dad are pretty involved in pros and cons and really weighing all this out. So he's definitely in the mix. I would say at this point, I may lean more towards a guy like Garrett Nussmeier out of Texas, who had a phenomenal junior season, threw for nearly 4,000 yards, threw for about 40 touchdowns, and really shot up the rankings. I mean, he's a top 200 guy now, a top 10 pro-style quarterback. That's the range of guys you need to be recruiting if you want to be moving in this direction with the passing game. So it's probably, in my mind, either going to be Kaleb Williams or Nussmeier. I know Ty Thompson in Arizona is another guy they like a lot, but of that group of three guys, I'd be sort of surprised if one of them wasn't the quarterback commit in this class.
Visiting with Shea Dixon, got you for one or two more. Shea, before I let you out of here, we certainly appreciate you coming on. Louisiana Juniors, top 10, landed in the top 247 class. I mentioned a couple of those juniors from Louisiana, and is this next year's senior class a little bit stronger than this last year's class?
Yeah, I definitely think it will be. I mean, boy, Troy, when was the last time we can remember LSU signed 5 kids from Louisiana
Unbelievable.
in a recruiting class? And that's what they did. And at the same time, finished with the highest ranked or highest rated recruiting class in 24/7 history. So their ability to go outside the state and get really elite players last cycle was impressive. I mean, no doubt, to finish number 4 in the country without kind of a ton of help from Louisiana boosting up your ranking, that's an impressive job and something LSU's not normally doing. And you'd expect that would happen even more coming off a 15-0 season and being really all over the television for the past 12 months for these next crop of recruits to see. That said, Louisiana is more deep this year with top-end talent. And you said it, 10 guys landed in the top 247, so top 250 recruits nationally, regardless of position. LSU's got 10 of them, and 5 of them were in the top 100. And you've got defensive linemen like Mason Smith at Terrebonne, Savion Jones over at St. James. You got just a pure athlete like Sage Ryan at LCA. There's a good number of kids in the Acadiana area that are making waves. But I think that one group that's really standing out to everybody is the wide receivers. And Brian Thomas at Walker, Chris Hilton at Zachary. And then you've got these guys emerging that have had big 1,000-plus yard seasons, some over 20 touchdowns as juniors, with Keon Coleman at Opelousas Catholic, Dustin Payson at Edna Carr, Tyrese Johnson, who plays over at Booker T in New Orleans, Malik Neighbors at Como. All those guys are 4-star prospect now. All of them had big junior seasons, and there's a common thread in there. What I named 6 guys, 3 of them also play basketball and have college offers for basketball. I know Tyrese has Georgetown, Brian Thomas over at Walker has a handful, and Keon Coleman has UL, McNeese, a few other college basketball offers. So these are some not only pretty talented wide receivers, but really talented athletes.
Saw Coleman in person. Hops. Shea Dixon, thank you for your time, man. Go check it out. Go 247, 2 months for the price of 1. Is that correct right now going on?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can jump on that deal. You can jump on $1 for the first month, whatever you feel like. But, yeah, test it out, see what you think. And, hey, now's the time to dive into recruiting. We're just now starting this new class, and you can kind of catch up in a hurry.
Thank you, Shea.
I appreciate it.
All right. Appreciate it, Shea Dixon, coming on.